If you are new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you stick around. I hope you hit that like button, hit that heart button over and over and over again. Thank you in advance for any gifts or anything, any likes that you give. I'll be reading, so I'm not going to be really looking at the comments. But I thank you for being here. I'm trying a new view, I guess. Hope you like it. If not, let me know in the comments or, whatever. Or not, just keep it to yourself. But I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to start with prayer and get right into it. We ended in chapter 41. Sorry if you hear any noise in the background. My dog's walking around. So we're just going to get right into it. Lord, I thank you for this day, God. I thank you for waking us all up this morning. And Lord, I just pray that you step in, God, and take control of every situation in our lives, Lord. If there's something that's not like you, God, remove it. And Lord, teach us your ways. Lord, I pray, God, that you step in and make your thoughts our thoughts and our words your words, God. And I just pray that you be with us today, Lord, that your favor be with us and protect us and guide us, God. In Jesus' name I pray, thank God, and amen. So again, we're going to be starting today at chapter 42. Genesis 42. I want to finish Genesis today, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. So I might come on again a little bit later and finish off Genesis today, so that we can get started on Exodus tomorrow. All right, so 42. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he had his sons. He said to his sons, "Why are you staring blankly at each other? I've just heard that there's grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us so that we can survive and not starve to death." So Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. However, Jacob didn't send Joseph's brother Benjamin along with his brothers because he thought something bad might happen to him. Israel's sons came to buy grain with others who also came since the famine had spread through the land of Canaan. As for Joseph, he was the land's governor, and he was the one selling grain to all the land's people. When Joseph's brothers arrived, they bowed down to him, their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he acted like he didn't know them. He spoke to them with a harsh tone and said, "Where have you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." Joseph recognized his brothers, but they didn't recognize him. Joseph remembered the dreams he had dreamed about them and said to them, "You are spies. You've come to look for the country's weaknesses." They said to him, "No, master. Your servants have just come to buy food. We are all the sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants aren't spies." He said to them, "No, you've come to look for the country's weaknesses." They said, We, your servants, are 12 brothers, sons of one man in the land of Canaan. The youngest is now with our father, but one is gone." Joseph said to them, "It's just as I've said to you. You are spies. But here is how to prove yourselves. As Pharaoh lives, you won't leave here until your youngest brother arrives. Send one of you to get your brother, but the rest of you will stay in prison. We will find out if your words are true. If not, as Pharaoh lives, you are certainly spies." He put them all in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "Do this and you will live, for I am a God-fearing man. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay in prison, and the rest of you go. Take grain back to those in your households who are hungry, but bring your youngest brother back to me so that your words will prove true and you won't die." So they prepared to do this. The brothers said to each other, "We are clearly guilty for what we did to our brother when we said his life was in danger and when he begged us for mercy, but we didn't listen. That's why we're in this danger now." Reuben responded to them, Didn't I tell you, don't do anything wrong to the boy? But you wouldn't listen. So now this is payback for his death." They didn't know that Joseph was listening to them because they were using an interpreter. He stepped away from them and wept. When he returned, he spoke with them again. Then he took Simeon from them and tied him in front of them. Then Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to put back each man's silver into his own sack, and to give them provision for their trip. And it was done. They loaded their grain onto their donkeys, and they set out. When they stopped to spend the night, one of them opened his sack to feed his donkey, and he saw his silver at the top of his sack. He said to his brothers, "My silver's been returned. It's right here in my sack." Their hearts stopped. Terrified, they said to each other, "What has God done to us?" When they got back to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they described to him everything that had happened to them. The man, the country's governor, spoke to us with a harsh tone and accused us of being spies in the country. We told him, "We're honest men, not spies. We are 12 brothers, all our father's sons. One of us is gone, but the youngest is right now with our father in the land of Canaan." The man, the country's governor, told us, "This is how I will know you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me, take grain for those in your households who are hungry, and go. But bring back your youngest brother to me. Then I will know that you are not spies, but honest men. I will give your brother back to you, and you may travel throughout the country." When they opened their sacks, each man found a pouch of his silver in his sack. When they and their father saw their pouches of silver, they were afraid. Their father Jacob said to them, "You've taken my children from me. Joseph's gone, Simeon's gone, and you are taking Benjamin. All this can't really be happening to me." Reuben said to his father, You may put both of my sons to death if I don't bring him back to you. Make him my responsibility, and I will make sure he returns to you." But Jacob said to him, "My son won't go down with you because his brother's dead, and he's been left all alone. If anything were to happen to him on the trip you are taking, you would send me, as I am old, to my grave in grief." The famine was severe in the land, and when they had eaten all the grain that they brought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go back and buy us a little food." Judah said to him, "The man was absolutely serious when he said, 'You may not see me again without your brother with you. If you agree to send our brother with us, then we will go down and buy you food. But if you don't agree to send him, then we can't go down because the man said to us, "You may not see me again without your brother with you." Israel said, "Why have you caused me such pain by telling the man you had another brother?" They said, "The man asked us pointedly about our family. 'Is your father still alive? Do you have a brother?' So we told him just what we've said. How were we to know he'd say, 'Bring your brother down here'?" Judah said to his father Israel, "Send the young man with me. Let's get ready to leave so that we can stay alive and not die. We, you, and our children. I will guarantee his safety. You can hold me responsible. If I don't bring him back to you and place him here in front of you, it will be my fault forever. If we hadn't waited so long, we would have returned twice by now." Their father Israel said to them, If it has to be, then do this. Take in your bags some of the land's choice produce, and bring it down to the man as a gift: a little medicinal resin, a little honey, gum, resin, pistachios, and almonds. Take twice as much silver with you, and take back the silver returned in the top of your sacks. It might have been a mistake. And take your brother. Get ready and go back to the man. May God Almighty make the man compassionate towards you, so that he may send back our other brother and Benjamin with you. But me, if I'm left childless, then I'm left childless. So the men took this gift. They took twice as much silver with them, together with Benjamin. They left, traveled down to Egypt, and received an audience with Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the manager of his household, Bring the men to the house, and slaughter an animal and prepare it, because the men will have dinner with me at noon. The man did as Joseph told him, and brought the men to Joseph's house. When they were brought to Joseph's house, the men were frightened and said, We've been brought here because of the silver put back in our sacks on our first trip, so he can overpower us, capture us, make slaves of us, and take our donkeys. They approached the man who was Joseph's household manager and spoke to him at the house's entrance. Please, master, we came down the first time just to buy food, but when we stopped to spend the night and opened our sacks, there was the exact amount of each man's silver at the top of his sack. We've brought it back with us, and we've brought down with us additional silver to buy food. We don't know who put our silver in our sacks. He said, You are fine. Don't be afraid. Your God and your father's God must have hidden a treasure in your sacks. I received your money. Then he brought Simeon out to them. The manager brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water to wash their feet and feed for their donkeys. They prepared the gift, anticipating Joseph's arrival at noon, since they had heard that he would have a meal there. When Joseph came into the house, they presented him the gift that they had brought with them into the house, and they bowed low in front of him. He asked them how they were and said, How is your elderly father, about whom you spoke? Is he still alive? They said, Your servant, our father, is fine. He's still alive. And they bowed down again and with deep respect. They said, Your servant, our father, is fine. He's still alive. He's still alive. And they bowed down again with deep respect. Joseph looked up and saw his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son, and he said, Is this your youngest brother whom you told me about? God be gracious to you, my son. Joseph's feelings for his brother were so strong he was about to weep, so he rushed to another room and wept there. He washed his face, came back, pulled himself together, and said, Set out the dinner. So they set out his food by himself, their food by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because Egyptians don't allow themselves to eat with Hebrews. The Egyptians think it beneath their dignity. They were seated in front of him from the oldest to the youngest in their exact birth order, and the men looked at each other with amazement. Portions of food from Joseph's table were brought to them, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as large as theirs. So they drank together and were at ease. Joseph gave commands to his household manager, Fill the men's sacks with as much food as they'll hold, and put each man's silver at the top of his sack. Put my cup, the silver cup, on top of the youngest brother's sack, together with the silver of his grain. So he did just as Joseph told him to do. At dawn, the men and their donkeys were sent off. They had left the city but hadn't gone far when Joseph said to his household manager, Get ready, go after the men and catch up with them. Ask them, Why have you repaid hospitality with ingratitude? Isn't this the cup my master drinks from and uses to discover God's plans? What you've done is despicable. When he caught up to them, he repeated those words. They replied, Why does my master talk to us like this? Your servants would never do such a thing. The silver that we found at the top of our sacks, we've just brought back to you from the land of Canaan. We didn't steal silver or gold from your master's house. Whoever of your servants is found with it will be put to death, and will be my master's slaves. He said, Fine, we'll do just as you said. Whoever is found with it will be my slave, and the rest of you will go free. Everyone quickly lowered their sacks to the ground, and each opened his sack. He searched the oldest first and youngest last, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. At this, they tore their clothing. Then everyone loaded their donkeys, and they returned to the city. When Judah and his brothers arrived at Joseph's house, he was still there, and they fell to the ground in front of him. Joseph said to them, "What's this you've done? Didn't you know someone like me can discover God's plans?" Judah replied, "What can we say to my master? What words can we use? How can we prove we are innocent? God has found your servants guilty. We are now your slaves, all of us, including the one with the cup." Joseph said, "I'd never do such a thing. Only the man found with the cup will be my slave. As for the rest of you, you are free to go back to your father." Judah approached him and said, "Please, my master, allow your servant to say something to my master without getting angry with your servant, since you are like Pharaoh himself." My master asked his servants, "Do you have a father or brother?" And we said to my master, "Yes, we have an elderly father and a young brother born when he was old. His brother is dead, and he's his mother's only child, but his father loves him. You told your servants, 'Bring him down to me so I can see him.' And we said to my master, 'The young man can't leave his father. If he leaves, his father will die.' You said to your servants, 'If your youngest brother doesn't come down with you, you'll never see my face again.' When we went back to my father, your servant, we told him what you said. Our father told us, 'Go back and buy for us a little food.' But we said, 'We can't go down. We will go down only if our youngest brother is with us. We won't be able to gain an audience with the men without our youngest brother with us.' Your servant, my father, said to us, 'You know that my wife gave birth to 2 sons for me. One disappeared, and I said, he must have been torn up by a wild animal, and I haven't seen him since. And if you take this one from me too, something terrible will happen to him, and you will send me, old as I am, to my grave in despair. When I now go back to your servant, my father, without the young man, whose life is so bound up with his, and when he sees that the young man isn't with us, he will die, and your servants will have sent our father, your servant, old as he is, to his grave in grief. I, your servant, guaranteed the young man's safety to my father, telling him, if I don't bring him back to you, it will be my fault forever. Now please let your servant stay as your slave instead of the young man, so that he can go back with his brothers. How can I go back to my father without the young man? I couldn't bear to see how badly my father would be hurt." I need a drink. Joseph could no longer control himself in front of all of his attendants, so he declared, "Everyone, leave now." So no one stayed with him when he revealed his identity to his brothers. He wept so loudly that the Egyptians and Pharaoh's household heard him. Joseph said to his brothers, "I'm Joseph. Is my father really still alive?" His brothers couldn't respond because they were terrified before him. Joseph said to his brothers, "Come closer to me," and they moved closer. He said, "I'm your brother Joseph, the one you sold to Egypt. Now don't be upset and don't be angry with yourselves that you sold me here. Actually, God sent me before you to save lives. We've already had 2 years of famine in the land, and there are 5 years left without planting or harvesting. God sent me before you to make sure you'd survive and to rescue your lives in this amazing way. You didn't send me here. It was God who made me a father to Pharaoh, master of his entire household and ruler of the whole land of Egypt. Hurry, go back to your father. Tell him this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me master of all of Egypt. Come down to me. Don't delay. You may live in the land of Goshen, so you will be near me, your children, your grandchildren, your flocks, your herds, and everyone with you. I will support you there, so you, your household, and everyone with you won't starve, since the famine will still last 5 years. You and my brother Benjamin have seen with your own eyes that I'm speaking to you. Tell my father about my power in Egypt and about everything you've seen. Hurry and bring my father down here." He threw his arms around his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept on his shoulder. He kissed all of his brothers and wept, embracing them. After that, his brothers were finally able to talk to him. When Pharaoh's household heard the message, "Joseph's brothers have arrived," both Pharaoh and his servants were pleased. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Give your brothers these instructions. Load your pack animals and go back to the land of Canaan. Get your father and your households and come back to me. Let me provide you with good things from the land of Egypt so that you may eat the land's best food. Give them these instructions too. Take wagons from the land of Egypt for your children and wives, and pack up your father and come back. Don't worry about your possessions, because you will have good things from the entire land of Egypt." So Israel's sons did that. Joseph gave them wagons as Pharaoh instructed, and he gave them provisions for the road. To all of them he gave a change of clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of clothing. To his father he sent 10 male donkeys carrying goods from Egypt, 10 female donkeys carrying grain and bread, and rations for his father for the road. He sent his brothers off, and as they were leaving, he told them, "Don't be worried about the trip." So they left Egypt and returned to their father Jacob. They returned to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. They announced to him, "Joseph's still alive. He's actually ruler of all the land of Egypt." Jacob's heart nearly failed, and he didn't believe them. When they when they told him everything Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the wagons Joseph had sent to carry him, Jacob recovered. Then Israel said, "This is too much. My son Joseph is still alive. Let me go and see him before I die." Oh. Israel packed up everything he owned and traveled to Beersheba. There he offered sacrifices to his father Isaac's God. God said to Israel in a vision at night, "Jacob, Jacob," and he said, "I'm here." He said, "I am El, your father's God. Don't be afraid to go down to Egypt, because I will make a great nation of you. I will make a great nation of you there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I promise to bring you out again. Joseph will close your eyes when you die." Then Jacob left Beersheba. Israel's sons put their father Jacob, their children, and their wives on the wagons Pharaoh had sent to carry him. They took their livestock and their possessions that they had acquired in the land of Canaan and arrived in Egypt. Jacob and all of his children with him, his sons and grandsons, his daughters and granddaughters, all of his descendants he brought with him to Egypt. Those are the names of the Israelites who went to Egypt, including Jacob and his sons. Jacob's oldest son was Reuben. Reuben's sons were Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. Simeon's sons were Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jashin, Zohar, and Shaul. Whose mother was a Canaanite. Levi's sons were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Judah's sons were Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. And Onan both died in the land of Canaan. Perez's sons were Hezron and Hamul. Issachar's sons were Tola, Puva, Iob, and Shimron. Zebulun's sons were Sered, Elon, and Jalil. And these are the sons Leah bore to Jacob in Padan Aram. Her daughter was Dinah. All of these persons, including his sons and daughters, totaled 33. Gad's sons were Ziphion, Haggai, Shuni, Ezban, Eri, Arodi, and Areli. Asher's sons were Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, and their sister Sarah. I guess it's Sarah. Beriah's sons were Heber and Malkiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to his daughter Leah. She bore those to Jacob at a total of 16 persons. The sons of Jacob's wives Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. To Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim. Asenath, daughter of Potipharah, priest of Heliopolis, bore them to him. Benjamin's sons were Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Ehi, Rosh, Mupim, Hupim, and Ard. These are Rachel's sons, who were born to Jacob, a total of 14 persons. Dan's son was Hushim. Naphtali's sons were Jaziel, Guni, Jezer, and Shalem. These are the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to his daughter Rachel. She bore those to Jacob, a total of 7 persons. All of the persons going to Egypt with Jacob, his own children, excluding Jacob's sons' wives, totaled 66 persons in Jacob's household. Going to Egypt totaled 70. Israel had sent Judah ahead to Joseph so that Joseph could explain the way to Goshen. Then they arrived in the land of Goshen. Joseph hitched up his chariot and went to meet his father Israel in Goshen. When he arrived, he threw his arms around his neck and wept, embracing him for a long time. Israel said to Joseph, I can die now after seeing your face. You are really still alive. Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, let me go up and inform Pharaoh and tell him, my brothers and my father's households who were in the land of Canaan have arrived. The men are shepherds because they own livestock. They've brought with them their flocks and herds and everything they own. When Pharaoh summons you and says, what do you do? Say, your servants have owned livestock since we were young, both we and our ancestors, so that you will be able to settle in the land of Goshen, since Egyptians think all shepherds are beneath their dignity. And I'm going to go ahead and end there. We went from 42 to 46. So I guess we'll finish Genesis tomorrow. So thank you so much for joining. Anyone who has given gifts, liked, or shared, I appreciate you. I will be loading this up into my YouTube channel. So in case you missed it or you want to rewatch it, I have from the beginning of Genesis up until now over on my YouTube channel, so you can check it out there. And join me every morning at 6 o'clock. I hope you all have an amazingly blessed day. And until next time, be blessed and be the reason someone smiles. Bye.